You're keeping company with Connor, and you're listening to another Townsquare Spotlight. We have another amazing episode for you guys, and I'm really excited about this one. Since her break on America's Next Top Model, Katie Cleary has been working her way up to being one of the world's leading animal activists and wildlife filmmakers. She's here to promote her film from 2022, Why on Earth, and her upcoming one, Protectors of the Wild, that's coming up. And just talking about her amazing career leading up to this point. Really excited to have her on today. Katie, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate
Absolutely. It. No, this is an honor. So I'm really happy to have you here. So one thing, of course, as I mentioned already, you've been an actress, you've been a model, and you've been in the entertainment industry for a long time. Well, before America's Next Top Model, you've been working your way up. And then you've kind of transitioned more into this activism role, but you've seen the ins and outs and the ups and downs and the goods and bads of all of this. So before we get into some of these films, let's talk about you for a second. What got you started in entertainment, and how did that turn into the activism?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was about 11 years old. I grew up in Chicago with a single mom. And, I always wanted to be involved in entertainment, modeling and acting. And I thought, I'll give it a shot. And I signed with a subsidiary of Elite Models when I was really young. I was a Stewart Talent, so kids division. And that's how it all started. So the first thing I did was a fresh look contact lens ad and then went from there. And gosh, one of the first main things was America's Next Top Model. That was when I was in college. And then when I first moved to LA, it was Deal or No Deal. And
cool. I did not know that one.
Yeah. And so, it's been, many shows, hosting gigs, acting, modeling. And but my passion really lied with protecting endangered species and animals. So it was really all about the animals from the beginning. I rescued animals in Chicago with my mom when I was a child. And rehabilitate wildlife, so baby birds that had fallen out of a nest, or squirrels, or raccoons, or you name it, and we would bring them to our local vet, actually a friend of the family, and then we would, do whatever we could to rehab them and re-release them back into the wild. And then that also went with kittens that we found. We would bottle feed them, or puppies, or and then find them good homes. So it started at a young age, but also the entertainment business started at a young age. So I thought, how could we marry the two? So I remember telling my mom I watched the Humane Society of the United States Awards when it was on Animal Planet when I was very young, and I thought, I'm going to be there one day.
I remember that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and they used to air it on Animal Planet a long time ago, and I thought, gosh, that's the community that I need to be involved with. So when I was on Deal or No Deal, one of the girls hosted that event, and she couldn't make it. I think she was sick one day, and she asked me to take her place. And really how everything started with getting involved heavily in animal activism, and then starting my first foundation, Peace for Animals, my only foundation, Peace for Animals, and our news network, World Animal News. So that was, over 12 years ago that it started. And that's, really when the entertainment business and my passion for animals merged. And I thought I could use this as a platform to raise awareness for something greater that will outlive me and be a voice for the voiceless. So that's, how it all began.
Oh, that's terrific. And I already knew you were an animal lover ahead of time because I see your dog popped on to the video a moment ago too. So that was really sweet.
Yeah, I rescued her about 5 months ago. So
wow.
Yeah, somebody left her at a daycare, and I guess they couldn't take care of her, and they didn't know what to do with her. So daycare was going to take her to the shelter, and I got a text, and I said, absolutely not. A 5-month-old, she's a white German Shepherd, I think Husky mix, and she wouldn't do well in the shelter, and no dogs should be sent to the shelter. So so I saved her.
That's so lovely.
9 other animals. So I've got 10 animals total.
Oh my gosh, 10 animals total in your, okay, so are they all dogs? What do you got then? I'm curious.
8 cats and 2 dogs.
8 cats and 2. My girlfriend would love to have your life. She is such a cat person.
I'm a crazy cat lady. I love it.
That's amazing.
Time job, I'll tell you. It is constant cleaning and feeding, but it's worth it.
Oh, I'm sure. No, that's fantastic. And that's so cool that you're able to merge those worlds. And here you were able to get up on that stage, something that you've always wanted by chance in a way. But it just goes to show just being there and being present really helps get you to certain things. And I think that's incredible. I really want to talk about something that you said a moment ago, how you were able to create World Animal News and Peace for Animals. Would you mind getting into what exactly those two foundations are and what exactly they do to, help animal activism?
Absolutely. So yeah, so it started really in 2012. I had an epiphany, and everything I do, really, I truly have a tremendous faith in God and Jesus, and I believe, as signs. And so I woke up one morning, and I really felt like I wasn't fulfilling my mission on this earth, because I believe we have such a short period of time we're here for, and I believe we all have to make a difference and an impact, and everyone has their mission. And I always knew my mission was for animals, but I really didn't know how to go about starting. I knew the rescue and rehab, I would always do that, but I thought, I have to take this to the next level, because we're going to lose these species if we don't step up. So I woke up one morning and I had an epiphany, and I thought, well, there's no news network for animals. Why doesn't someone start a news network? And the first thing that popped in my head was World Animal News. That was the first thing. And then I thought, well, I could start a foundation and then help support the news network through the foundation. So Peace for Animals came about. It was a little bit harder to come up with a name, but I had a logo in my head. It was a peace sign with a tiger, half of a tiger. So half of a peace sign, half of a tiger face. And I thought, okay, well, I got to find out, figure out the best name. It was like Peace for Wildlife, Peace for Animals. And then I thought, we're going to focus on all animals, so it has to be animals. And then let's see, and then the first documentary, Give Me Shelter. And all those, those ideas popped into my head. And then I just called my best friend at the time and I said, would you help me direct my first documentary, Give Me Shelter? And she said, where's this coming from? And I said, I had an epiphany. Will you move to LA from Chicago and help me? And she said, absolutely. So she moved out that month. And
wow.
Give Me Shelter. And she has a tremendous faith in God and Jesus as well. And she thought this was a sign because her major was theater and filmmaking. So that was her first, directorial, debut. So Give Me Shelter to a local T-Radio V news network, and I pitched World Animal News as an animal radio show. And that day, they gave me my own show. They said, absolutely, I don't have an animal. What is this? Like an animal news network? What is an animal show? I said, yeah. They said, well, you're hired. Do it. And I started bringing on the heads of all these foundations and celebrities that had a passion for animals. And it lasted for about a year and a half. And then we turned it into a news network. So, yeah, so that's how it all started. And then Peace for Animals is the foundation.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah.
So anybody who's listening right now is like, oh my God, I need to go check this out. Where can they find either?
Yeah, so Give Me Shelter is the first documentary, and of course, Why on Earth is the newest one we've talked about with Clint Eastwood. And you can all streaming platforms, so Apple, iTunes, Amazon, anywhere that you stream your films, you can find it, except Netflix. Give Me Shelter was on Netflix for 18 months, and then it also goes on to different streaming platforms. So, but Why on Earth is on Apple, iTunes, and Amazon, and everything else as well.
That's awesome. I think that's great. And of course, well, first of all, when I hear Give Me Shelter, the first thing that I think of is actually the Rolling Stones. Was there any inspiration there to the name or anything in the film?
You know what? Yeah, I love the Rolling Stones. I do. And I thought, it's great to get their song in the film. How amazing would that be for charity, right? But yeah, no, it was just because, it's just such an iconic, title. And I thought, these animals need protection and they need help. And I thought that was perfect for the first documentary. So Give Me Shelter. Yeah. And then Why on Earth, I thought, why on earth is this happening to these species? That was another one. But it's about catching people's attention and keeping people's attention. Because now, you get so much stuff thrown at you, from all different directions in the news and social media. And people don't have, like they're, it's quick. Everything's quick. So they need the attention span is short. So have to catch them as they're scrolling, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You got to get them quick. It's really tough. But that's also why I love, having moments like these where we can have these moments to sit down and be like, all right, this is time for this, and people listen, and it's great. And I'm happy to get this out there. So when it came to Why on Earth, and as you said, you worked with Clint Eastwood on that, amazing. So first of all, great name. Why on earth? That already says so many different things just simply in the name. And as you said, why are these things happening to these animals? Can you go a little bit more into the focus on this? Was there any particular kind of species or any particular kind of animal or animals you were focusing on it for that documentary? And how did that play out throughout the process? And also would love to know what working with Clint Eastwood was like.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, our focus was endangered species. So elephant, ivory trade, the rhino horn trade, what's happening throughout South Africa, Zimbabwe, Kenya, and then also deforestation. So the environmental impact of, clear cutting these forests and burning these forests to the ground. It's primary forests that orangutans depend on to be able to survive and connect critical habitat for them to be able to spread their genes and breed and continue, their beautiful species for generations to come. So it was heartbreaking to film. I mean, it took us 4 years to travel throughout Africa, Indonesia, Mexico, talk about shark finning, and just really the most prevalent issues, which was now 7 years ago. It was just a labor of love to be part of that and direct that film, and then also have Clint Eastwood sit down and be interviewed at his ranch up in Northern California. I think it was a month before the pandemic hit. We got him. He sat down and he just talked about his love for all animals and the fact that he rescued animals from a very young age, and talked about his passion for horses and that he rescued, I think, 65 horses from being slaughtered, and just making that connection, throughout the film and having his voice be very prevalent in it. He's an amazing person, and he's given back so much, and he has very rarely spoken about his love and his passion for animals. So we were blessed to be able to have him.
Oh, that's neat. I didn't realize how close he was with animals and what that history was like for him. So that's cool. I'm going to have to check this out. No, I told my girlfriend about all this, and it's like, no, we're sitting down, we're watching these. So I'm excited for it and everything.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm sure we'll enjoy it, and I think it'll be great. And I love to be able to discover these things through this program and, getting to speak with you and everything. So thank you for going into that film. It actually sparked a few questions for me, but I want to save those for after we talk about the upcoming film that you have coming up. We have here, it is Protectors of the Wild. And this one, you're being a little more specific on what you're honing in on, correct? This one is specifically on wolves?
Yeah, about wolves. So in the U.S. and Canada. And basically, it came about, it was kind of an interesting, it's a mission for sure, but an interesting way that it showed up in my life. How about that? I was at a shop, and this husband and wife team makes this beautiful jewelry, endangered species, and I saw this beautiful wolf ring, and it just struck me. I thought, oh gosh, this is so gorgeous. I have to get this ring, and it's a very powerful ring. I'll send you a picture.
Oh, please do.
And the next day, I got a call to join the Relist Wolves Coalition, and I thought, wow, okay, this is interesting. This is a sign from God. Believe in signs, and everything that has come about in regards to the animals has been, and documentary would be, and I think it needs to be about one species, and the one species that has been vilified for generations, that is actually a very compassionate species, that is family oriented, that sticks with their pack, that's loving, that's sensitive. It's about wolves. It's got to be about wolves. So it's called Protectors of the Wild. So that's how Protectors of the Wild came up. And we've been a part of the Relist Wolves Coalition now for 3 years to relist them in the Northern Rockies because they're not protected, sadly, in that region.
Oh, wow. Did not know that. So that's interesting that you're able to come about that. And I think that's really awesome because I believe in signs too. So like you're kind of directed in certain ways. And that's just awesome timing, how that was able to all come together for you. Please correct me if I'm mistaken. Working on this documentary, it's also brought you here to New York working in some wolf sanctuaries. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. So we just visited a couple weeks ago the Wolf Conservation Center, and they're actually a part of the Relist Wolves Coalition with us. And now they've renamed it to Team Wolf. So it's a big coalition of groups from around the world, and especially in the United States, that want to see wolves protected and stay protected. And not delisted, because now there's a proposal to take them off the endangered species list that will give hunters an open day to kill them, which is heartbreaking because, like I said, there's only an estimated 5,000 left in the continuing United States, and not including Alaska. Alaska has the biggest population. But and of course Canada. But it's just heartbreaking that we've gotten to this point. We eradicated them in the early 1900s. Hunters, the meat and dairy industry, factory farming wasn't alive then, but it is now. So, that has a big impact on wolves. And it did back in the 1900s. Cattle ranching, that was the big thing. And the cattle ranching and the hunters just wanted them dead. So they completely almost killed them off in every state in the United States. And a small population was able to survive. And that's the population we have now, but it hasn't grown much. I mean, 5,000 wolves is not much. And I think the government has something to do with that. They don't want wolves in every state. And because our, human population has exploded. And we're taking away all their wild spaces. So, my goal is how we're going to rewild this earth. How are we going to rewild the United States? Because that's going to solve a lot of problems.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you actually brought up, all collective of the United States and talking about government, because that was something I wanted to bring up based off what you were talking about from the last movie. But it's like, oh, do I want to get political or not? I don't mean to get political, but definitely we're coming up on an election.
Yeah.
I don't care whoever anybody is voting for or rooting for. I have my own opinions about it. I'm sure you have your own opinions about it. But what I want to focus on right now, what can Americans do at this time to advocate for wildlife and how they can reach out to local and national government to make a difference, make changes based on the things that you've seen and the things that you're currently working with?
So what we've seen, and we highlight legislation pretty prevalently, especially in Why on Earth, and also with this new documentary, Protectors of the Wild, about wolves. We're heavily involved in legislation. And there's reason, because that's what changes everything. It has to be enforced, of course, but if a law is passed, that could help save a species from extinction. So that's why we focus on legislation and also community efforts. So I think that the key is to do it on a local level, because it's really hard to get bills passed federally, even though, we have worked on some. I think that if you get it passed on a local level, it can spread and spread like wildfire, to be honest, because then people will copy that legislation over. It's easier to copy legislation than really just create new legislation, right? So if you pass, New York, Chicago, California, then everyone else will be like, wow, well, it passed in these states, so then of course we should pass it. We'll just use the same language, we'll use the same legislation and tweak it a bit. That's easier for people to comprehend. It's interesting how legislation works. It's almost like high school, to be honest. Being up at the Capitol, it's like a popularity contest. It's interesting. You would never think that bills get passed the way they do, but they do. So the louder you are, the more noise you create, the more people listen in legislative arenas. So if you get a petition going, if you have a lot of people call your local legislators, you have a chance of getting a bill passed. If you have enough people behind it and you have enough noise behind it. Isn't that interesting?
I think that makes a lot of sense, though. It's the power in numbers, because we really can do a lot. I saw an image recently, and I think that you would probably appreciate this. It was a picture of a shark being kind of swallowed by a swarm of smaller fish, but the swarm kind of made it look like it was a bigger fish altogether. And the idea was the power of many can outweigh the power of few if we really work on that.
100%. So, we have to stick together, and it also starts in your own backyard. Whatever you can do. I mean, right now, there's a massive heat wave going on throughout the country.
Yes.
Hurricanes, you name it. So I think the key is, especially with the heat wave, leave water out for wildlife. Do whatever you can. If you see an animal that was hit by a car, help it, or call your local, animal control or, wildlife rehab to help you. If you feel comfortable taking it there, then, but I always have an extra carrying case for animals in the back of my car, just in case anything happens, because I come across, animals all the time that are injured or hurt, and I always, ended up bringing them in my car and taking them to the shelter or the wildlife rehab, or I rehab them, or whatever, what have you. But it really starts in your own backyard. And also volunteer. Volunteering is very easy. Volunteering at your local wildlife rehab or shelter. Adopt, don't shop. There's so many animals in the shelter right now because of the 4th of July, especially that, with the fireworks, they're extremely afraid of fireworks, right? So There's a flood of animals that come in that run away from their homes, that are scared to death of these fireworks, that are now in the shelter. Those animals need help. They need to be taken out. They need to be fed, and they need to be adopted or fostered. Ecotourism. Try to visit these animals in the wild. Countries are taking note. When you go to Africa, when you go to Indonesia, when you go to the Galapagos Islands, wherever you may go to see these animals in the wild, they want to know why you're there, because that's tourism for them. So that gives them more incentive to protect these animals in the wild, right? Go to Yellowstone, go to Yosemite, go to these wild spaces and observe them in their natural habitat. Don't visit them at zoos. That's not their natural behavior. They don't want to be there. They deserve to be free.
No, I hear you on that. And one thing that, at least the area around us, we're very lucky. I've had on our sister program In Touch a number of people who work in the veterinary arts. My cousin-in-law is a vet around here, and we just had him on with another program. We had various SPCAs around here that do great work. They're no-kill shelters, and they do a lot of great work and activism around here. And we've talked on Verbatim about trying to get involved with them. I think that's great. And I'm just happy to hear you reinforcing a lot of those things, because it is important and it is good. And it just goes to show you how we are all affected. And when I say we, I'm not talking about just humans. I am talking about all the creatures. Big initiative that was big around here. I don't know about where you are or anywhere around, like No Mow May, to try to help the pollinators and things along those lines. So there are things around, and there are people taking advantage of it, but you're right, power in numbers. We got to build things up. And I think that is so key. So as you said, power in numbers, we got to help out. We got to be there to make the planet sustainable in the long run, helping everybody out. When it comes to just doing the smallest parts, not even just reaching out to legislation, like on a day-to-day basis, how could just a regular American help out make the world a bit better for all creatures around them?
I think it starts on your plate as well, not only in your backyard, but on your plate. You can save the animals. We're talking about thousands throughout your lifetime by just leaving meat off your plate. Or just, try it one day, Meatless Mondays, and go from there. I mean, my grandma's going to be 101. She's 100 years old right now. I said, "What's your secret?" And she said, "I eat a whole foods, mostly plant-based." So she does a lot of fruits. She's almost like a fruitarian, right? Fruits and veggies, but all organic. I mean, she can grow it in her own backyard, and she lives in Chicago. Only of course in the summer because it's freezing in Chicago in the winter. But can still grow amazing vegetables, and so that's how she stays young at 100 years old, and that's how she keeps going because of what she eats. I believe food is medicine. I think food can heal you both inside and out. So I truly believe if we leave meat off our plates or eat less meat, start with Meatless Mondays and go from there, or just eliminate one meal of meat a day, I think we can save so many lives, not only ours, but many animals, many farm animals that are killed every day through factory farming and horrific, methods and conditions.
I think that's great. And it's actually funny you bring that up. My best friend and I had a very similar conversation about this. Partly one for health, partly two for money, how we've both cut down dramatically the amount of meat that we've had. And, just how good we feel like we're trying to eat a lot more clean and everything. So it's funny that all comes up. Again, signs, timings in our lives, right? So yes. I think this is just reinforcing that. But one thing that I've heard, a criticism towards that, and I would love to hear what you say about it. I'm just one person. How can that really affect the supply chain?
It will, because you're one of billions around the world. So if it's not just you, if everyone heard this message and did one thing to reduce their meat consumption, that would make a huge difference and a huge ripple effect around the world. I mean, I think on average, I have to double check, don't quote me on this, but is it 24,000 animals that people on average eat in their lifetime?
That's an interesting number. Yeah.
There might be more. It might be more, to be honest.
I can see it.
Don't quote me. I have to look that up. So I'll send you the right statistics on that. But anyways, I mean, that's a lot of animals, right? So if that's a lot of lives for what? One moment of satisfaction, one burger? I mean, when you can have a veggie burger that's way healthier, it doesn't make sense, right? So, and it's harder for your system to digest meat. Not only that, not to say that I'm trying to discourage people from eating meat, but I want, facts here. You don't know how the animal was killed, right?
Yeah.
The fear that they endured, you're consuming that. On a spiritual level, that's not good. You're consuming a dead animal that has been through fear because they didn't want to be killed to be a burger, right?
Yeah.
So you have that. And then also, what if the animal was sick? You're not going to know. Had cancer, what if it had a tumor? They're still going to serve it to you. I'm sorry, these people, they don't care. They're still going to give you that animal even if it had a tumor. And I've seen some videos and I was like, oh my gosh. So
I've seen some things firsthand. Yes.
Why are people getting sick? It's what they eat.
Yeah, big time.
And not only that, it's what you watch. It's who you're around. It's the environment you hang out with. It's not just, of course, what you eat is a huge, factor, but you got to be careful what you watch. Be careful who you're around. Be careful of the environment that you're around. Toxicity is everywhere. Stay away from it. Try to stay healthy. Get outdoors. Exercise.
Touch grass, as they say. Touch grass.
Around, volunteer. I think that it said there's a statistic that people are, was it like 20% happier if they volunteer?
I can see that.
Something like that. Yeah. Again, I'll send you these stats after.
Please do. By the way, as you were saying that, I just looked up the average American, how many animals they eat in a lifetime. The first thing that comes up for me is 35,000.
Okay, so it's 10,000 off. Sorry, but it's still
supposedly, at least by this one, the top search result.
Okay,
but,
so I wasn't too far off.
But that, regardless, somewhere between 24,000 and 35, that's a huge number.
And those like cows, pigs, God knows what else. That's terrible. So many alternatives now. In the plant-based section in the grocery stores, it's just about purchasing something different.
Yeah. And you can still purchase so many different fats, so many different carbs, so many different proteins without having to do that. It's funny how I've been able to accidentally put in a lot more protein that's not animal-based. And it's like, oh, wow, this works. And it's good. And so I'm very grateful for it. So it's interesting. I'm glad, again, timing of everything. Certain things happen. So this is, at least if you're getting through to anybody, you're getting through to me. So I appreciate that.
And, you just feel less weighed down too. I used to eat meat. This is a long time ago, but I feel like lighter. I feel like I have more energy.
Everybody, I've talked to dietitians. I've talked to a number of people in health and diet fields, and they say it's like, yes, plant-based can definitely help, but some people's metabolisms and the way that they go, some people do need to have a little more meat versus others. But that's the big thing. Understand yourself and try to go those ways to figure out what is needed. And I think that goes a long way of what you're saying, of watching your food and understanding what you're intaking. And I think that's so important. Katie, this has been such a great time talking with you. I'm really excited about this. I'm excited about your new film. I can't wait to watch your previous films. Again, as we're wrapping up, where can people follow you, follow any of your organizations? And again, let's reiterate, where can they find your films?
Sure, absolutely. You can watch Why on Earth on all streaming platforms but Netflix, because I think it was too controversial for them. So Apple, iTunes, Amazon, all the rest of the streaming platforms. You can watch Give Me Shelter on the same streaming platforms. That's my first documentary. But I recommend watching Why on Earth first, because Give Me Shelter was a chance I took. I used my savings to do it. And, not so good, but Why on Earth I think it's better. So watch that one first. And then World Animal News. Every day we do breaking news around the world and animal welfare, environmental issues, legislation. So visit worldanimalnews.com. You can follow us on social media. Our foundation is peace_for animals on Instagram, World Animal News on Instagram, Why on Earth, Give Me Shelter, and then I'm Katie Cleary, 11. So follow the work that we do and save lives in the process and spread the word.
Amazing. Katie, before we wrap up this Townsquare Spotlight, do you have any last little nugget for the Hudson Valley listening audience?
Yes, I do. Faith is powerful. I know that everyone has their own take on it, but faith in God and Jesus has led me to where I am today. So I would encourage everyone to look into having faith and praying, because prayer is also powerful. It can do with animals, but important. please watch. I believe this changed my life completely. The Chosen. I haven't seen The Chosen yet.
Oh,
It's a powerful. It's the #1 series on TV right now around the world, and it truly changed my life. So if you can give that a try, watch The Chosen. It's amazing. But it has nothing to do with animals, but it's what brought me to where I am today.
oh wow. I've heard so much about it. I've yet to see it, but that's just something else I'm going to have to add to the watch list.
Yes, watch that first, actually.
Yeah, there you go.
Documentaries. Watch The Chosen, and then watch the animal documentaries.
There you go. That's high praise. That's high praise for you to be like, go watch this first. I'm not even a part of it. Just watch this, and then maybe you can watch my stuff.
Yeah, life. It truly changed mine. So.
Amazing. Katie, thank you so much for being here on this Townsquare Spotlight. God bless you. Wish you all the best, and can't wait for the new film.
God bless you too. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Take care.